Wow, 1,000 subscribers. I've been on here a little bit less than a year and I've already hit 1,000 subscribers. I can't say thank you enough, everybody. And to celebrate, how about we do a very special episode of Video Game Nostalgia.
Goodbye.
Before the 16-bit wars, there was only one company that people really talked about here in North America with video games, and that was Nintendo, the Nintendo Entertainment System. And basically every game that came out was classified as a Nintendo game. But there was actually a battle brewing inside to see which was the best company or developer for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now most of you will look back on some of your favorite Nintendo games, and two names automatically pop up. It's either Capcom or Konami. How do you decide which company is better? I mean, both Capcom and Konami are absolute Nintendo development titans. If you do it by game titles, I mean, on the Capcom side, you've got the Disney games, and of course, Mega Man. But then again, on the Konami side, you've got Contra. And how can we forget Castlevania? I mean, really, those titles are regarded as some of the greatest games of all time. They're still talked about today, like they're legendary. Okay, how about we look at it this way? We do it by the number of games released by each developer. I mean, I look through my collection, it seems like every second or third game has that purple outline synonymous with Capcom. But then again, Konami had a ton of games too, and you can see the exact same number. Every single second or third game has that silver outline synonymous with Konami. Not only that, but I mean, Konami released so many games, they actually had to come up with a second company called Ultra to release games under because there was some kind of weird rules. They could only release so many games a year. So I mean, you can't distinguish it that way either. As most people know, I'm a huge video game music fan as well, so maybe that's a way we can separate the two brands. Well, there's a deciding. I mean, Capcom had some of the best music of all time. The DuckTales Moon theme is one of my all-time favorites, and Mega Man, oh, the music in Mega Man is just unreal, specifically Mega Man 2. Then again, Konami did have this. I just can't decide. I cannot tell you which company I like more, Capcom or Konami. There's only one real way that we're going to be able to pick a winner here. I'm going to have to reach out to some of the greatest people on YouTube and get their opinions.
Hi, I'm Johnny.
I'm Danny.
I'm Roger. And I'm Ada. And together, we're the 16-bit brothers.
Firstly, we'd like to congratulate Michael B, the Game Genie, on 1,000 subs.
Well done, mate. Well done, buddy.
Congratulations. Very well
deserved.
Very well deserved, yeah. Very well deserved.
Top bloke.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
Brilliant channel. Does an array of things from game reviews to pickups.
Got a good collection on it.
Mint collection.
Yeah, really good. Jealous.
How many NES games have you got? Over like, is it?
A lot. I can't remember the number.
Is it either 300 or 400?
It's 3 million.
He's nearly reached either 300 or 400. I can't
I
remember.
think he's over 400.
Anyway, he's asked us to do a bit of something.
A little bit of something.
A little bit of something.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do.
What Michael's asked us to do is try and help him pick between Konami and Capcom in the NES era. We've been having a bit of a dabble with the games that we've got, and we've decided that we can't decide.
Yeah.
So what we think we're going to do is do a quick draw. Everybody's going to name one game from Capcom, one game from Konami, and then we've all got to quickly pick. We've got no time to think which game we prefer.
Yeah, it's just on instinct.
Right, so it's a bit of a dodgy way of choosing, but this is what we've chosen. So, Eddie, choices, go.
Capcom, Chippendale, Konami, Life Force Salamander.
Chippendale.
Life Force.
Chippendale.
Right, DuckTales or Turtles 2?
DuckTales.
Turtles 2.
DuckTales.
Go.
Right. Pro Protector Contra or Bionic Commando.
Contra.
Contra.
Go, Johnny, finally. Mega Man and Castlevania.
Oh! Mega Man.
Mega Man.
Oh, that's so... I don't even know which one. Oh. Right, so hopefully we're going to have a score here.
I don't even know who's won.
I don't
But
know
we
who's
should
won.
say in behind us, it's not easy to choose. But the way we just did it, which is probably a bit of a messed up way of doing it.
But a fair way as well.
But a fair way.
Yeah.
Just, there's a lot more games out there to compare when you could talk all day and all night about it. But that's why we had to do it like this. It ended up being Capcom 3, Konami 1.
So, Capcom's better.
Michael, just get rid of all you can make. Get more Capcom. Send them here. We love them.
Yeah, so that's I hope that helps in some way to make your mind up.
Yeah.
But really, we want to say thank you very much for asking us to be a part of your 1,000 subscriber special.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, and congratulations.
Well done, you pal.
Yeah,
Well deserved.
because you do deserve it, and you deserve a lot more. So here's to a lot more, and everybody's subbing.
Michael B. the Game Genie. Yellow, 64-bit Matthew speaking. Yeah, okay. Okay, bye. Capcom vs. Konami on the original Nintendo. That's a tough one. Now, I never had an original Nintendo growing up, so I can't even base my decision on past experiences that would lead my vote either way. It's really just, all I can base it on is since I've started collecting for the Nintendo. And Konami vs. Capcom. Both of them are such great companies for the Nintendo. How am I going to choose? On one hand, you got Konami. They got games like Castlevania, Contra, Jack Nicklaus Golf. Well, actually, yeah, forget that one. But they got shooters. All around, it's just a great company. But then, you get Capcom. They had some heavy hitters as well. They got Chippendale Rescue Rangers, DuckTales 1 and 2, Mega Man series, Gunsmoke. Just a great company. Yeah, both companies put out great games. So how can you really pick between them? Don't even have a coin to flip to choose. Gotta pick one or the other. You know what? It's really close, but I'll have to give this one to Capcom. They just had so many greats. Konami did too, but Capcom, they both had great games, but Capcom just had that many more. It really comes down to the number game. Capcom had so many great games for the original Nintendo. They get my vote. Now, with that being said, the scenario is like asking a husky kid if he wants cake or brownies. Sure, he's going to have a favorite and pick one or the other, but at the end of the day, he'd be happy with both. So then that's like me with Konami and Capcom. Give me either, and I'm a happy gamer. So Michael B. the Game Genie, hopefully this helps. I guess you get another vote for Capcom, but it's a close one. Yeah. Oh, and congrats on 1,000 subscribers, bud. That's really awesome. So kudos to you for that. And yeah, I hope I helped with the decision.
Michael B, the Game Genie. He's so sexy. He's sexier than me.
Michael B, the Game Genie. Congratulations, buddy. This is Aaron here from RetroLiberty. I just wanted to say congrats, man. That is so awesome. You're at 1,000. Honestly, you will get to way more through time, and it is well deserved. And something else I wanted to say is you're one of the nicest guys on YouTube. You treat everybody with a really big amount of respect, and that's really cool, and I respect that, and I'm honored to be in your video. You gave us a hard subject. You told us to pick kind of what we liked better in the NES days of Capcom versus Konami. I'd say for me as a kid, Capcom might have been one of my more favorites because they had all the Disney games, and I was really big into those, like the DuckTales and the Little Nemo, Dream Master, the Chippendales, but they also have games like Bionic Commando and Strider, and they have the Mega Mans. Mega Man games is huge. I don't really know if there's a way to beat that. Mega Man 2 I think is one of the best Mega Mans ever. With the platforming, the way the levels laid out, the bosses were some of my favorites on the system. Some of my favorites of all time. And that was Capcom, so they did a great job. Strider. Strider is one of my favorites as well. The amazing music. I know a lot of people didn't like Strider on the NES, but I loved it as a kid. So many good memories with my brothers. And then Konami. Konami had Contra, Konami had Castlevania, Konami had Gradius, and a ton of others. I don't know what the NES would be without games like Castlevania and games like Contra. The Konami code is, there's a few games that use it, but really everybody thinks of Contra when they think of it. Contra to this day is a game that I go back to all the time. Same with the Castlevania games. So I guess really if you went down to it, I would say nowadays I would pick Konami. I go back to those games a little bit more now. But back in the day, I would say I probably played more Capcom. I can't give you a straight answer, dude. That's ridiculous. So I don't know. That's what I'm going to stick with. Capcom back in the day, and nowadays, probably Konami.
Oh crap, Konami also had Blades of Steel and Life Force.
But they have Mega Man. How are you forcing us to choose? I'm not choosing. I refuse. All I can say is congratulations, and it is freaking well deserved, buddy. I hope you get so many more. You deserve it.
I just realized I rambled through your whole video because I couldn't decide. So I'm not deciding. My answer is Capnami!
There's a big spider behind my camera right now.
Goodbye.
Well, when we're talking old school Nintendo, one of the most epic battles that ever took place was Konami and Capcom, which was the best third-party developer. For me personally, it's really hard to pick which one was better, Konami or Capcom. I mean, they both had amazing libraries on the NES. Both of them essentially defined the third-party game developer on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Chances are, if one of your favorite games were made by either one of those companies. I mean, Capcom had all the Disney games, the licensed games, the DuckTales, the Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and they had one of my favorite series of all time, the Mega Man series. And I think that, the Mega Man series, is what really puts Capcom as winning by a nose for me. Because on the other hand, Konami produced a lot of my favorite games as well. I mean, they had Contra, they had the Castlevania series, and of course, they had one of my favorite franchises of all time, the Ninja Turtle series. So it's really, some days it's honestly a toss-up between which is my favorite series on the NES. Super Mario, Ninja Turtles, and Mega Man. One's by Nintendo, one's by Capcom, and one's by Konami. So what does that tell you? Essentially, Capcom and Konami dominated the third-party game development of the late 80s and early 90s. But I'm going to have to go with Capcom. I really am going to have to go with Capcom. And it's simply because of Mega Man. That really puts it over the edge for me. Because Mega Man, when I remember the first time I ever played Mega Man. I rented it not knowing what it was, of that awful box art. You know, the one I'm talking about on Mega Man 2, where it looks like it was drawn by somebody who watched way too many 80s sci-fi movies. That one. Yeah, as a kid, I saw that box art. And I still wanted to play the game for some reason. So I took it, rented it. I was changed forever at that point. I mean, who doesn't love Mega Man? Fighting these freaking robots, taking their powers. The game mechanics were brilliant. So when we're talking Mega Man, we're talking one of my favorite franchises of all time. Made by Capcom. But Konami had Ninja Turtles. And I love me some Ninja Turtles. Look, I got freaking Ninja Turtle boxes right up here. You know, that's a Konami franchise right there. But I also have Mega Man 6 box. You can't love NES without loving both Capcom and Konami. So you got your Konami, you got your Capcom, 2 slices of bread with the Nintendo, franchises as the meat slapped together for an amazing NES experience back in the day. And I can't imagine what the NES would have been like without both of those third-party companies developing awesome games, that we remember and cherish to this very day.
Epic video game battles of history! Konami versus Capcom! YouTube! What's going on? What's the word? Congratulations to Michael B, the Game Genie, for hitting 1,000 subs and more. The sky's the limit for this guy. He's one of the greatest YouTubers out there. Happy to be a part of this. And of course the question is, who's fucking better? Konami or Capcom? And it came down to this for me. I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks since he asked me to do this. It came down to this: which games in their libraries blew me away when I was younger? Because obviously they're still releasing games, and I'm more of a retro gamer than a new gamer, so that's the criteria. Let's get to it. Now, Konami had games like Castlevania for the NES, which, of course, I'm sure all of you know is one of the greatest games of all time. Now, Castlevania went on to spawn about 20 other games, and probably my favorite, one of my favorite games of all time, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But another game was overlooked in the library of the NES was Jackal. Jackal is one of the greatest 2-player games to ever be released. It's so much fun. I can play this game all the time. What the fuck? Alex, I don't know what the fuck just happened. Anyway, Jackal, one of the coolest games. Zombies Ate My Neighbors, one of the coolest 2-player games again. Konami, well known for their 2-player action. This game certainly was great on the Genesis, also very good for the Super Nintendo. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the series. Now the arcade game, I could have probably bought the arcade game with the amount of quarters that I pumped into that machine. But again, it was released for the Super Nintendo, and it blew me away at the time. I was definitely jealous being a Sega kid, seeing this game for the Super Nintendo. It came out for the Genesis in the form of Hyperstone Heist. I think it's a great game. Obviously, it's not as colorful as this one. But again, this game blew me away. Great 2-player game. Great 4-player game in the arcade. Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation. This came out when I was in college. I remember smoking a few doobies and playing this game. And certainly being blown away by Psycho Mantis. For those of you guys who've played this game, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to give anything away, but again, mind-blowing. And probably, can't confirm this, my all-time favorite game, Contra. Come on, it's Contra. You know what it is. One of the greats. And Capcom's no slouch. DuckTales, which they're remaking. Some of the best music on the system is on this game. Mega Man 2, one of the greatest Mega Mans of all time. Ghosts and Goblins, notorious for its difficulty, but the arcade game and this version are excellent. Ghouls and Ghosts, talk about being blown away by home graphics. This game, when it was first released, even though it was reprogrammed by Sega, it is a Capcom game. Amazing! Amazing game! Trust me on that. And you know, it also came out for the Super Nintendo, but it has slowdown. But this game is sick. Talk about a series that I remember walking down a hallway in this game where the liquor comes flying through the window and actually jumping out of my chair. This game scared the shit out of me when it came out. And I think, you know, it was late high school, college at the time. Of course, this game, mind-blowing for the time. You know, still is. Resident Evil 2 is probably one of my all-time favorite games. I'm not too big of a fan of the newer ones, 5 or 6, but 4 is also an excellent game. But Capcom came through with this series right here. Of course, Resident Evil. And Marvel vs. Capcom 2, one of the greatest fighting games of all time, but not as good as, in my opinion, as Street Fighter 2. Come on, the original Street Fighter 2 when it first came out, I had played the original one in the arcade and I thought it sucked. But I still played the shit out of it. And then when the second one came out, you know, the first character I used in that game was Zangief, and I sucked royally at it. But now I'm pretty good with Ken. I can destroy people with Ken, for the most part. My brother uses Dalzim, and he's actually pretty good at him, but I didn't know anybody was good with that character. But again, Street Fighter 2, one of the greatest games of all time. So what's the verdict? The winner has got to be Sega! No, not Sega. Are you crazy? This is Konami versus Capcom. Konami! Sega! No, not Sega. Stop with Sega. I love Sega. Congratulations again. I'll see you guys next time.
Wow, 5 great guest appearances, and currently Capcom's up 3-1. But I don't know if that's enough of a margin. I think we're going to have to pull a few more people.
Congratulations, Mike, on reaching 1,000 subscribers. That is an awesome milestone. But since I don't have much time for this video, I will get straight to the point. Capcom or Konami, which is my favorite developer for the NES? Which, when you initially asked this, I thought it was going to be easy for me to answer. I figured I would pick Capcom from when I was a kid, because I think of them as a developer of platformers like Mega Man or the excellent Disney games, and then Konami as an adult because I love the shoot-'em-up games, and that's what I think of them primarily as. That is not the way it worked out at all, because with Capcom you've got excellent shoot-'em-ups in 1942, 1943, Legendary Wings, Section Z, Gunsmoke is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. With Konami you have excellent platformers like the Castlevania games or Bucky O'Hare or another game that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I know there are others. Anyway, what I decided to do instead is pull all the games from both developers out of my collection, and if one was more heavily represented than the other, then I thought that might give them the advantage. The problem is, I have exactly 21 games from both developers in my collection. So then I thought, well, I'll have to find some other way to figure this out. Which games do I have the strongest memory of as a kid? Well, I picked them out, 15 from each developer. Alright, fine. Which games am I most likely to pick up and play on a given moment? Again, 15 games. Slightly different from the other list, but still, 15 games. I started thinking, well, what about games that I still want to get from each developer? Maybe I can use that to make the decision. And no, because it's exactly 5 games from each developer. They're so evenly mashed, it's next to impossible for me to choose. And the temptation was there to use Ultra to help me decide, because I'm sure somebody will have mentioned in this video, Ultra was a shell company for Konami back in the day. And that would add 10 or 12 games, something like that, to my Konami collection if I did that. And some really good games like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, Metal Gear and Snake's Revenge, and I think Gyrus was from Ultra. Mission Impossible I like, believe it or not. Nightshade is another one that I think is really cool. So that would help me decide. That would definitely weight it heavily in Konami's favor, but I don't believe that's in the spirit of the question. So the one thing I could find that stuck out was sports games. Konami has Double Dribble and Blades of Steel, which are not just 2 of my favorite sports games on the NES, but 2 of my favorite games on the NES. I'm just as likely to pick those up and play them as I am any other game from either developer. And they certainly kick the ass of the only sports game for Capcom I have in my collection, which I think is called Gold Medal Challenge. So I'm not going to use Ultra, but still, it's a slight edge for Konami because I like their sports games. So, I don't know. That's the way I chose to answer. Your answer may be different, and I certainly look forward to seeing the answers of all the other folks. So, thank you very much for asking me, Mike, and again, congratulations.
Hey everybody, what's up? This is 8-Bit Eric, and I'm here to join the debate. Capcom versus Konami. Which of the two is considered the best? Now, the Nintendo Entertainment System had tons of games. So many that I would probably just be here all day talking about it. And I don't got that time. And I'm sure you guys don't got that time. So let's just get down to the nitty-gritty and let's talk about the best of the best. Now, both of these companies have had some heavy hitters throughout the years. And it all goes back to the NES days. So without further ado, let's begin with Capcom. Tons of heavy hitters and a couple stinkers. Lots of arcade ports. You had Legendary Wings, you had 1942, you had classics such as Yo-Noid. Nah, that was a joke. But most importantly, what I think was successful about Capcom was their partnership with Disney. DuckTales, Chip and Dale, Little Mermaid, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, Adventures in the Magical Kingdom. Okay, there was one little black sheep out of the bunch, but Capcom had something going on the NES. Now, as far as some of their other games go, Mighty Final Fight and Mega Man, everybody loves Mega Man. You can't play NES without playing any of the 6 Mega Man. But looking beyond the Disney games and the Mega Man games, they really didn't offer much. I mean, Street Fighter 2010, Strider, those are okay games, but some of them, Commando, left a little bit to be desired. Bionic Commando was a good one. All sorts of other titles I can't think off the top of my head. Ghouls and Ghosts, Gargoyle's Quest, okay, true. I guess Capcom had its own distinct feel. They had a little bit of everything, which is good. But on the other hand, you take a look at Konami, and you see great shooters, Laser Invasion, Gradius. You have awesome games such as Contra, Castlevania, The Goonies, Goonies 2, tons of great games, the Ninja Turtle games on the NES. It's pretty close in the competition, and in my opinion, I think Konami is the best because I have more memories with Konami games. The Turtle games, for example, Contra, for more example, Gradius. I mean, tons of the Konami games. I just feel that I had more memories with them on the NES. Later on, Capcom, Super Nintendo, sure. Okay, you can, aside from, those games, yeah, Konami wasn't really memorable for me on the Super Nintendo era, but as far as NES games go, Konami all the way. Just based on my whole personal nostalgic memories of it. But I guess, I'm going a little bit against the grain. I'm assuming everybody else on here went with Capcom. So I'm sorry, guys. Feel free to troll me. But thanks a lot, and I appreciate being on this video. Have fun, Michael B.
So which is it going to be, Capcom or Konami? I would have to say Capcom on the old school NES, just because of the Mega Man series, just because of the DuckTales, the Rescue Rangers, the old Disney games, the Street Fighter 2010, which is a gem that people need to play more of. And Konami's great. you know, they made the Castlevania series. They made so many. They made Life Force. They made Contra. They made Gradius. I just felt that back in the day, I was a Capcom fan. I still am a Capcom fan now, even though they're kind of messing up. Konami's doing great. They have the Metal Gear series, and they have a whole bunch of other series. They had DDR for a minute. They're doing good, but just for nostalgia reasons, I'd have to stick with Capcom because I played Mega Man so much, and I played those little Nemo. I played, you know, even recently there's the Mighty Final Fight that I figured out was an awesome game. It doesn't count towards back then, but that was a really good game. I feel that it was just more carefree and more fun, and Konami games are kind of like adult, more gritty, you know, not as carefree games, if that makes any sense. But you know, I would always read Nintendo Power, and you know, just for example, I have the Nintendo Power for the Super C, and I would always read these magazines, just check out, you know, upcoming, you know, strategies and stuff like that, and then I'd get to like the Mega Man, right? And then I would see like all the artwork, and back then I was so into doodling and drawing, you know, see that? I was so into doodling and drawing, I wanted to make my own robot, so that's another reason why I had to side with Capcom. But that's pretty much what I'd have to say, and check out this really nice poster, right? Mega Man 2 poster. Pretty awesome. Dr. Wily. So, yeah. Capcom all the way for Mr. Dude, and Konami's a short second because I just love Castlevania, do not get me wrong. So anyways, that's how I'd like to close this out, is that I am a Capcom fan on the NES. So, thanks for having me a part of this collabo, and let's check out the other ones. Who's next?
Okay, Lester here, Nate, and we are doing a video for Michael B. the Game Genie. He's requested, or not requested, but he's reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Congratulations, buddy.
He's asked a very hard question, perplexing maybe.
I don't like this question,
I don't
Mike.
like it either. Capcom or Konami in the NES era?
You maritime people have a sick sense of humor. I'm not gonna put that on camera. Do you want to tell them, Lester, then that we like
Capcom?
Capcom. By a Bucky O'Hare. Both companies had really, really good games in the NES era. I hate to say that. Konami was an awesome video game publisher or whatever in the Nintendo era. They had Wick Contra. They even, like I said, they had Bucky O'Hare.
Castlevania.
Castlevania, I still think is the best music on the Nintendo.
The Ninja Turtle games.
Turtles 2. The arcade game, my favorite Nintendo game. Top 10 at least, anyways. So it really hurts, but for them to compete with Mega Man, which is like a platformer giant, Mighty Final Fight, which is okay. Lester doesn't like it.
No, I never did. No. I was a big fan of Strider on Nintendo. Oh man, loved the music in that game. It was super hard too, I thought, because the controls were wonky, but I think that was the part why it was hard. But anyway,
Ghosts and Goblins was good.
Ghosts and Goblins.
So really, what we chose to pick our favorite really was what? Personal preference?
Personal preference this time around.
Our nostalgia. Personal bias plays in huge here. We did not look at this analytically or objectively. Totally subjective. We love Capcom.
Yeah, we love Capcom.
Sorry, Konami.
Hey everybody, Kid Shoryuken here, and I've been invited by Michael B. the Game Genie to kind of weigh in on this whole 8-bit Capcom versus 8-bit Konami debate, and I'm very happy to do so. First of all though, Mike, congratulations on the bajillion subs. Is it a bajillion or 1,000? Well, either way, congrats. It's no small feat. Big Mike in the morning, as I like to call him. Don't ask me why. But let's get right into it. So, in this corner we have Konami. Now, Konami, super impressive library of games in the 8-bit era. First off, have to mention Tiny Toon Adventures. Fantastic game. They made 2 of them for the NES. Great games. Gradius, classic shooter. Perhaps my favorite shooter of all time. Contra. Just balls to the wall action, legendary game. And then of course, who can forget, they gave us all those really awesome Turtles games. That really gives them a lot of cred with me. But honestly, the thing that makes Konami potential winner in this debate is the Castlevania series. So we got Castlevania on the Game Boy. We got 3 excellent games for the NES. And actually, we got this one here also for the Famicom, Kid Dracula, which unfortunately didn't get an international release, but still, it's classic. So you got the Castlevania series in addition to all those other games. That potentially could make Konami the winner in this debate, but let's check out what Capcom has to offer. Now, first of all, Capcom had a slew of really great Disney games. Now here I've only got Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers and DuckTales 2, but there were a whole bunch of others. Darkwing Duck, Tailspin, The Little Mermaid. Capcom and Disney, that was some kind of dream team. Then there were games that didn't get an international release. Much the same way that Kid Dracula didn't get an international release, neither did this game. Kamen no Ninja Hanamaru, another really great action platformer that never made it out of Japan. Let's not forget good old Ghosts and Goblins. Incredibly difficult, but incredibly fun and charming, legendary game. And even had time to squeeze in some mighty Final Fight. Awesome 8-bit beat 'em up. But all that aside, for me, what really puts Capcom over the top is the Mega Man series. They gave us 5 Mega Man games for the Game Boy and 6 Mega Man games for the NES. That's just a whole lot of awesomeness. So, my absolute favorite series of all time, Mega Man. My second favorite series of all time, Castlevania. So that for me puts Capcom just up over the edge in this debate of who was better during the 8-bit era. I'm throwing my hat in with Capcom. I love you, Mega Man. I really do.
Hey, I'm the Sega Stoner, and Michael B., the Game Genie, asked me to tell thee, what did I prefer? Capcom, Konami. Well, he wants to know about 8-bit. And Master System, you might as well take those 2 companies and throw them out, because it ain't happening. But I can answer this question. Some of you might know. I'm kind of a connoisseur of Ninja Turtles. It's true. Can you guess what company I choose? Konami. So all of you Castlevania, Mega Man people, sorry, it's irrelevant. You can take those franchises and chuck them. Ninja Turtles. Yeah. We're talking, you know, late 80s, early 90s. It's all about the turtles. Alright? You walk down the street during that time frame. Be like, hey, hey, do you like Mega Man? No, I like Ninja Turtles. You better back up, sucker. You know, you go around and saying, hey, do you know Simon Belmont? Pfft, I know Leonardo. You know? It's just not happening. Okay? So, hands down, without a doubt, Konami. Because they released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the NES. Sega Stoner endorses Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the NES. It's one of the only games I'll play on the NES. So people, Konami. What? Konami. What? Konami. Ninja Turtles. Peace.
So after 11 amazing YouTubers, Capcom is still in the lead by 2 votes, being up 6-4. Let's see if the next couple people can turn the tide for Konami.
Hey YouTubers, Electric Avengers here with a special insert for Michael B. the Game Genie's 1,000 subscribers. That's a very big milestone, well deserved. He has a great channel. He's definitely thought up a distinctive style and how he wants to present things, and he's always entertaining to watch. And he asked us to do a quick, a few of us to do a quick video. Well, it was centered around the Nintendo Entertainment System, and whether we were more of a fan of Konami or Capcom, although we could play this in modern times. I'm going to have to go a little different because I didn't have the NES growing up. I had the Master System, and only in the store I worked in, but the NES wasn't around. But I did have earlier versions of all of the Konami games because one of the very first computers I had, which was one of the ones I wrote my games for, was the Spectra Video. And the Spectra Video machine was used as the basis for the MSX Standard with a couple of changes once all the Japanese companies got together. Now with all the Japanese companies getting behind all of these machines, of course a quite a few of the Japanese software publishers cut their teeth on the MSX system. So Konami, as an example, brought out quite a large number of titles for the MSX systems, and quite a few of them were for the MSX1, and they continued later on through the life cycle of the MSX machines. So MSX2 is around the time the NES came out in comparison, but MSX1 was much earlier, so from 1983 onwards. After having the Spectrum Video, which was a great machine and the architecture was great, there really were not a lot of software titles out for it, which is one of the primary reasons why I started writing my own. But then the MSX versions came out, and I could not believe these games that came out at launch. Things like Antarctic Adventure. It was so colourful, lovely music, and really well put together game. And then things like Sky Jaguar, another one of the games that we got. I mean, these cartridges were expensive back then, so even the shop that I worked in couldn't get very many copies of them. Also, the margins that they expected the shops to make was like 10% or something like that, so it was very... You know, you had to put a lot of money into the stock on something you didn't know whether it was going to sell, so we didn't get all the titles. But things like Hypersports, bashing away at the keyboard, racing down tracks and jumping over poles and things like that. And even Circus Charlie was another really good game. And we were very lucky near the end to actually get hold of a copy of Nemesis. Heard all about it, one of the titles we couldn't get hold of early stock of. So Nemesis holds a lot of memories because of being a shoot 'em up and really showing what you could do with the MSX hardware back then. And another one that's really good is Road Fighter. So just really a lot of games. Now Capcom did write games for the MSX as well, but I wasn't exposed to them back then. And I did play some of the Capcom games in the arcades, but just had lesser access to it. So. I'm definitely a Konami guy. So if I had had a NES, I'm sure I would have gotten into the Konami titles on that as well. And in my small NES collection that I have behind me, I have quite a large number of Konami games. So I think it shows which side of the fence I would have sat on. So just a short little video. So thank you, Michael, for asking me to be part of your 1,000 subscriber special. I'm sure you'll go on to bigger and greater numbers and continue to entertain us on YouTube. Alright, thank you. I'll catch you all later.
That is my most favorite sound ever. Konami. It's one of my all-time favorite games ever. So Michael B asked the question, Capcom or Konami? You will soon find out what my answer is, if you haven't already. Let's get this fucking party started! Of course one player I'm by myself right now, of course. Of course, Leonardo. I know April O'Neil, I know. 3M. Those are my fucking nuggets.
They're good.
Those are my health. Fuck it, I'm gonna get it before you fucking nugget me. Make sure it's sauced.
I already did it. I think I touched your tooth. It's okay.
That was fucking delicious. Oh god, that was so good. Caprice on me. Okay, good. Woo! Spread shot, motherfucker!
Your mom's spread shot.
Let's do this! Look, that fucking dog always comes after me.
You too?
Mother! It's all good, it's all good.
Nice.
Look at the dog. I hate the fucking dog. Best Castlevania in the series, 1 through 4, number 4. I think. Oh yeah, look at this. Look at this. I didn't say nugget. Gimme.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say no, but I already said next time follow orders.
Sorry. It's just.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like that sound? That's right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anything for a B.
Man, this is the best all-time Konami best fucking game ever. So, in conclusion, to answer Mike's question, Konami.
First of all, mate, I gotta say, absolutely massive congratulations on the 1,000+ subs. Totally deserved. Not only are you a top bloke, your channel is wicked and you're a community legend. So yeah, very much well deserved, mate. Awesome. Secondly, I'm very flattered that you would ask me, you know, my opinion on such a divisive subject. Konami or Capcom? Who was more important to you back in the day on the NES? Now, I'm going to have to put a little bit of a twist on this, because my only exposure to the NES as a kid was one person I knew. Literally one person in school had one. That's not to say it wasn't popular over here, it's just everyone else had a Sega Master System. But this person, my mate Sam, who had one, all the games I ever played on his NES were Capcom. Stuff like Mega Man 2, DuckTales, pretty much all the Disney stuff. And, you know, I really did like it and enjoy it. You know, obviously there wasn't that much of a strong sort of Konami, Capcom vibe going on the, you know, with the Master System, or at least before I sold mine. But I can sum this up, or I can pick one of these companies for sure. To me as a kid, albeit on the ZX Spectrum, Konami, hands down, absolutely hands down. Konami was amazing. I mean, I already been exposed to many of their great arcade games. But on the Spectrum, Ocean, Imagine, they ported pretty much most of Konami's games. Stuff like Green Beret, Le Mans, Salamander, Nemesis, Jailbreak, Combat School. Absolutely loved and adored these games. If you say to me Capcom on the ZX Spectrum, I can only think of 2, 3 games. Ghosts and Goblins, Bionic Commando, and Commando. That's it. I can't think, there were more, but I can't think of anything else. But you mentioned Konami to me, and you know, and then Greiser comes to mind. Greiser, why did they call it Greiser, not Contra? I don't know. Absolutely fantastic arcade port, and the Spectrum version is still, you know, a very solid representation of the arcade. Absolutely amazing game. So there's few companies that if you say their name, you know, I just have such strong feelings towards them as a kid, and Konami is one of them. You know, absolutely love and adore Konami as a kid. Just great games, even though I was playing on the Spectrum. However, as an adult, it's a bit of a different ball game, really. If I had to make a call on which was more important to me as an adult, I'd have to say Capcom. And I'd have to say Capcom, thanks to one title that pretty much, you know, was just there, just the hands down one of the greatest, most influential games I ever played, and that would be Street Fighter. You know, never has one game meant so much to me as Street Fighter. So yeah, as a kid, Konami, absolutely for sure. Konami were just the boys. They could put no foot wrong. All right, I'm playing, you know, playing Konami games that have been converted by different software houses such as Ocean and Imagine, but to me their brand was as strong. As an adult, thanks to Street Fighter, Capcom. Once again, mate, congratulations on your epic and well-deserved milestone.
Weekend Game Guy here, and I've always had the same opinion on this whole Capcom versus Konami ordeal, and I've always been a Konami fan. And if for no other reason, it was the caliber of games that I felt Konami consistently released. In truth, the games that Konami released, either in the parent company of Konami or via their subsidiary company, Ultra Games, were always top-notch in my opinion. Now, granted, there are some stinkers in the group, and there's always, I mean, if you go through Capcom's list, we're going to find some stinkers in there. But by and large, a lot of the games that Konami released really defined my time playing the Nintendo Entertainment System. I mean, you take games like Contra, of course. Who did not spend hours on end playing Contra? Who didn't? And that's where we get the up, down, left, right, BA start. I mean, yeah, I mean that defines the culture of the time. So thank you, Konami. I mean, with the Turtle series of games. Now, granted, the first one's kind of a stinker, but you take all the other ones from Manhattan Project, the arcade game, the Tournament Fighters, once again, we find them setting a standard for what, in my opinion, short of what Nintendo was doing, they were kind of what Nintendo was about. Metal Gear, a series that has stood the test of time and is still producing pretty good games, in my opinion. And of course, I mean, what discussion about Konami would be complete without at least mentioning Castlevania? If I was trapped on a desert island and I was only allowed to take one video game with me, I would take the original Castlevania, because it's arguably the greatest game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. That's not the real reason I've picked them out of this group. Now that's weird for me to say that, because they are the producer of the greatest game, in my opinion. What they did produce was something that grabbed me that under any other circumstances would not have. Now, as a kid, and even to this day, I cannot stand sports titles. There's only a handful of sports games I like. Of all the sports titles there ever were, I hated them all, except one, and that's Blades of Steel. Now, I know I've sat here and sang the praises of Castlevania, but the real reason I'm picking Konami here today is because they made a sports game that I loved as a kid. To find a company that could produce a game and it plays so well, and even today I love playing it, it's just the strangest thing ever. So, honestly, Konami, my hat is off to you guys. You did a phenomenal job with everything you ever made, and I just love Konami. I just want to thank Mike for having me be part of this, and let's see who's up next.
Hey guys, what's up? This is a video response to Michael B. the Game Genie's 1000th video. Basically, it's what did you prefer when you were younger, in the growing up in this era, Capcom or Konami? I'm definitely gonna say Capcom, because I just started playing games like Commando, 1942, 1943, the Mega Man series, the Disney games. Those games for me, I really enjoyed all of them. They were great. Really some, memorable memories there, definitely. Anyway, guys, peace out.
Hello, I'm Andrew from Andrew's Games Display, and the question of who is better, Capcom or Konami, is definitely not a very easy one for me to answer, especially back in the 8-bit days. Not so much these days, actually, although back then, Konami was really awesome. They had the Contra games, the Castlevania games, they ported things like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade game. Overall, they made some really awesome things back then. Although on the other hand, you had Capcom, who had the awesome Mega Man series. They had the ability to take pretty much any Disney franchise and make awesome games out of it. They had their own arcade ports like 1943, which I really love. So overall, it's really hard for me to choose back then. I'm kind of leaning towards Capcom in my opinion. Just because I think that one of the main things I grew up with as a child was the Mega Man series. As awesome as Castlevania, Contra, and all the other games that Konami made are, I think Mega Man just really impacted me a lot, and it really stuck with me throughout the years too, because then they even went on to make things like Mega Man X, and even the Mega Man Battle Network series for the Game Boy Advance became one of my favorite series of all time. So I mean, I really stuck with Mega Man, and a lot of my gaming back in the day was definitely the Mega Man games 1 through 6. I really, really loved them, and even though I really loved the Castlevania and Contra games, Mega Man just definitely stands out for me as one of the greatest series of all time, and then as a result, I really, really have to appreciate what Capcom made back then, because the Mega Man games just became such a massive part of my childhood. Unfortunately, today, I cannot say the same thing about Capcom, as I'm sure that everyone knows about the whole Mega Man Legends 3 fiasco that went on, and ever since then, Capcom has just really been disgracing the Mega Man series, and just been so mean to their fans, too. I mean, especially saying it's everyone's fault that Mega Man Legends 3 got cancelled in the first place, so it really is a shame just how far Capcom has fallen. canceling Mega Man Legends 3, canceling Mega Man Universe, and then not localizing one of the games in my #1 favorite series, the Ace Attorney series, which is also made by Capcom, because Capcom just made so many of my favorite games. They had Mega Man, they had the 1943 series, they had things like Ace Attorney, just so many things out there that I really, really love that Capcom made, although it's so sad to see that these days they're kind of not really making anything that I want anymore. So overall, I definitely really like Konami, and I still play the games that they make today, although I don't know what's happened with Capcom. So back in the day, Capcom was my #1 favorite company, and I'll always love going back and playing things like the NES games and the Super Nintendo games. But for today, I definitely think that Konami takes the cake. So Michael B, the Game Genie, that is what I think on this super important matter. I can't believe it. It's a tie. After 17 great YouTubers have come on and passed their opinion, Capcom and Konami both end up with 8 votes. I guess it just goes to show how great each developer was and how much the games mean to us as gamers. Well, here's how we can decide which company's better. What I want each of you to do is to post a comment down in the video below and say which company you preferred. Or you can even do a video response and tell me which company you preferred and why. Base it whatever way you want. Anyways, guys, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed my 1,000 subscriber special. I want to say thank you so much to everybody who participated and sent in videos for it. It means the world to me. This whole community aspect of YouTube has meant the world to me, and thank you so much for welcoming me into it. Anyways, guys, this is Michael B, the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time. You know, at the end of the day, when it comes down to Capcom and Konami, the real winners of this battle were actually us, the gamers, the people who had Nintendos at the time, because each company pushed the other one to develop the best games possible, and we as gamers reap the benefits of that by playing some of the all-time absolute greatest games.